your time again. All people in the webinar, thank you for coming again, like every week. Today we're going to be checking the fixed assets functionality. What we have is the review of what Business Central has for you to, even if you are not accountants, understand this process, because I know, like in every week, many of you actually access, even though accountants access to Azure or technical stuff, or vice versa. People who is dedicated as administrators like to see sometimes some financial stuff. So that's the idea, that we all learn together. Anyway, if you later have doubts, any of you on your side of your responsibilities as well, you can ask me. This is an accounting process, a basic accounting process that we must follow, we must understand, because many of you would like to as well maybe implement, and you would need to at least have some references about important information. So we're going to review the fixed asset functionality. We're going to have some examples. I'm going to start working on this live in our environment. So, well, the idea is that we're going to present the fixed asset functionality in Business Central, and we're going to have an overview of the entire fixed asset process, the workflow, to ensure that we have a correct periodic upload or purchase your assets, have depreciation, enable to keep track maintenance costs, insurance, and many other variables that we might have until we get a report or statistics. So for each asset, fixed assets, we're gonna review the cards, review the information, review how do we build an equipment, even maybe with component list and group various ways. So we have a great presentation for today, as usual, and we're gonna start just now. So thank you for your time. We're gonna have this session. You can ask me anything at any given point throughout the presentation, or at the end as well, if you need, we can clarify any of your doubts. Very well, so now our agenda for today is like this. We're gonna be starting to review what is a fixed asset, how to create it, what information is required here. And once we define our first fixed asset, to understand the great idea, I cannot go in depth and just review all the setups behind everything. But what I want you to know is the actual functionality, the main ideas behind all you're going to be seeing when we create our asset. Then we're going to go with the workflow. And for you to know, the regular workflow is that a fixed asset is a piece of equipment, is in the accounting side considered something that it's part of your own inventory as well. Inventory actually is something you purchase and you have it in the asset section, and as well a fixed asset. But the only difference is that an asset is something that you might not be selling in order to necessarily get profit, but this could be a building, land, vehicle, a computer. Also, we have different type of assets that will be not tangible, like software licenses, rights, specific copyrights, maybe specific ideas as well, and those are considered assets for us. As long as they have value, it is an asset for us. And we're gonna then learn how to purchase it, since all the accounting process needs to be defined, and the only way to actually create an asset and provide then a specific value, well, your vendor is responsible to provide a value for you. So if you purchase a car, then only when you get that invoice, or after purchasing the asset, maybe you pay insurance, and then later the cost will be as well changing. But in order to actually depreciate a car, you understand that with the time the value will decrease. Well, as a rule, we need to have acquisition costs, and we're gonna do that through a purchase order. After the time, depreciation comes in hand, because your assets won't, except for land, won't be, they have a life cycle that will be then, meaning that we have a book value after we have an acquisition cost through a purchase order. Then we're gonna go through the next step, which is the depreciation. The idea is that the book value is going to be decreased with the time on a monthly basis normally, but we have different type of calculation for depreciation. The normal will be that we have a specific rate where Business Central is actually as well going to help us, but for depreciation, we can use normal journals, financial journals, but in this case, what I'm going to show you today is the actual automation. So we have the book value, which is how much your asset after you purchase it. We can retain the value, but then later, another difference with any of the other inventory that you might have, well, we're gonna have to decrease the value for the life cycle. If a computer or car maybe have, a computer might have maybe 2 years, 3 years, maybe at most of value. Normally, that's standard. After 3 years, any computer have no value at all. A car, maybe after 5 years, it doesn't work. It's not, the value calculated will be zero after maybe 5 years. And that will be automatically done by Business Central. You don't have to actually work with this, and the depreciation will be run until the book value is zero. But as well, sometimes it's necessary maybe to sell the items. So then part of our agenda is to make corrections and reclassifications. So for that, you might have machinery where you need to provide maintenance, where you would sometimes need to decrease the actual book value, since sometimes even you have maybe any of your assets you work and you put this asset to work a lot, right? Specific machinery might broke. So at some point, the depreciation run has got to be stopped in order to actually maybe just even sell it, or we have specific corrections to decrease or increase the value of an asset. All right. So we need to understand first the accounting nature, normal calculations. Of course, there are plenty more for accountants. Well, you know that we have taxes corrections, that as well we have write-offs, write-downs, but for now we are going to keep it on the most important process of creating and maintaining and depreciating your assets. But at the end, well, at the end, we're just going to be presenting some reports that are necessary then for us here in the fixed asset process. Okay, very well. So for me, then this will be the agenda and a very basic explanation, a general, of course. Well, there will be plenty of more study here because we, of course, need to set up a GL accounts, and we need to understand that everything flows automatically. But for those of you who are not accountants, I'm also going to be presenting this in an easy way. Okay, so now, introduction. What is a fixed asset? What is a functionality? Okay, so we're going to have an overview that ensures correct periodic depreciation. Okay, here's more powerful Business Central, since creating an asset is super easy. You're going to see it, and purchasing it is super easy. Okay, but it also enables you to keep track of your maintenance costs, very important, manage insurance policies where they are applied, and have fixed asset transactions. So we generate various reports and statistics. Then later, to keep track of fixed asset depreciation as well as other financial transactions related to fixed assets, you set up one or more depreciation books for each fixed asset in your company. So what happened here? We have a fixed asset modules separated like many other functionalities in Business Central. So you receive, you have your GL account, but for specific reasons, like a similarly with a PAR, bank reconciliation, or even something completely different like a POS, well, you have another tool to create for you specific transactions, and then later you're going to post it to the GL. So that's our depreciation book. The depreciation book is the record, is a book where we record all the specific transactions. How much it costs, what is the book value, when you depreciate, when you create a specific adjustment. So you have a car, but maybe you have new parts that you apply, maybe a new audio system, but as well you provide maintenance. So the actual value of an asset is going to change through time, either automatically through depreciation, that's the nature of a fixed asset, or either increase or adding more equipment to specific I don't know, machinery. So we have a production line that has many assets, many components, engineering components that with the time, of course, all of them have different values, but at the end they are a single unit with different components. So it could be really complex sometimes, but Business Central is going to help you with this. So that's why we are providing this. Now, you can record maintenance costs, next service dates, keep track of maintenance expenses. This is important for budgeting. We can have it for fixed assets as well, and when we need to replace this for specific spare parts. And now, then, before we can begin to manage fixed assets, you must set up default values. We have fixed asset accounting, posting groups, and allocation keys. So we're going to go through that as well before anything. I'm going to be then maintaining the same workflow that I mentioned you, but once in a while I'm going to go through accounting stuff for you to as well. Just keep in mind some processes that we need to as well configure. But the main thing is that you understand the actual process. And this presentation that I have, I'm going to provide it since I'm going to be now moving to the actual Business Central application to create an asset and do the first exercise. But as well, if you need, I have also this manual integrated. Now we're going to provide this in our webinars in this new format that we're going to have. Well, I'm also going to provide instructions for whatever we present in our weekly webinars. If you need materials, because very often or oftenly actually I receive specific requests about how to do this and that. What will be specific requirements for me to implement or to do a simple exercise explaining the webinars? Well, I'm going to have now this PowerPoint that we can just give away to you, our customers, our most important asset. All right. So we are here to help you, to give you ideas and to propose you some value. So now our webinars will be having these formats so you can just not only see videos but as well having documentation. And here I have some exercises that I'm going to do, and as well we have these brief manuals with the key ideas. Okay, so just as an example, you are seeing the manual for create fixed asset in this presentation, but it's not necessary to just follow up PowerPoint since we have the application open and we just can just work directly in our project. So the first topic, like I said, is just create an asset. So now I'm just going to toggle and I'm going to go to the application. So I'm going to open now Business Central. Okay, for today, I'm going to work in the actual Business Central in the cloud. We are working in a Kronos USA company. So you might see just maybe differentiations when it comes to tax calculations, but all the functionality will work for Business Central. And as well as you know, we work as well with NAV processes. So this will be exactly the same information, just the screen will change in color and in format, but the functionality, the data, the fields, and the look and feel, or the feel of the process is exactly the same. It hasn't changed in this case for this module. Let's jump now into the fixed asset process. Today I'm an accountant, so the accountant in the role center is just checking just values for payments, is checking the overdue purchase of documents, the cash. Well, in this case, it's negative for this company, very bad, very bad. The thing is that I was actually making a lot of transactions that has consumed my cash. So for me anyway, I'm going to start checking now the fixed assets. The fixed asset then, like I said, is a model that ensures a healthy, correct periodic depreciations, create my assets, keep track of maintenance costs. And we have some of the basic module menus here, just by if you access through the role center in Business Central or NAV, every user can have one specific type of screen. Okay, for now, either in NAV and Business Central, remember, an accountant is doing these processes. So preferably, if you try to follow this, try to as well review your role center. And in this case, I'm going to be an accountant for the day. And that is going to allow me to have this great design for the fixed asset processes. As well, just to share how the actual Business Central works, we do not only have that navigation tool, but that with the actual design for the accountant, but as well, you could review the entire menus where you will be finding everything related to actually finance. And in business, in aviation specifically, you have the type of menu where you have all the different modules, right? So, well, in this case, you will just need to access to the finance one in order to find the fixed assets. And here as well in Business Central, well, we have the classic menu where you could just find as well, like in the old-fashioned way, any operation. Or, of course, any of the, just showing a little bit about the navigation, and you will be able just to find your items. Well, when we begin, we have the idea of pages and tasks. This is only now for Business Central, this basic explanation about searching. As well, NAV works with this type of functionality. Business Central is going to allow you to look for what you require in the actual system, the actual page that you have. In this case, for fixed assets, since I just typed fixed. Well, this is just among the menus in Business Central, the options that were suggested. Then reports and analysis will be always offered to you if you're looking for something related to that. Don't go and try to find the report menu. Where is this? Where is that? Business Central understand that you are always looking for a specific part in the system, or might be looking for a report, which are the main type of a search criteria that you might have. But as well, if you need, please, we could actually create for you a folder for your company. This is an idea that is not oftenly applied, but you can create a shared folder for your company where you could have specific documentation like I'm having here. Well, I'm pretty much interested in create fixed assets in Russia. Okay, so yes, that's very important for me and my company. Okay, well, that's part of the documentation. And of course, well, get from Microsoft App Source. This is just an example of what you could be finding here, but there is plenty more. You could connect this immediately to internet to give you some specific criteria related to the web that you could find as well here. That's why we have here 57 applications as an example, and you could continue exploring. Just as an example, let me just go back because I'm going to continue now with the accounting module, which is preferably the one that you will be using. Here in the fixed asset section, actually you have plenty of different modules available directly here, but in the fixed asset, we are going to immediately go into the fixed asset section where we're going to find our GL, our list of fixed assets. That will be the list we need to review first to understand this module. Then we have for you to know specific transactions, but we do not do the transactions for the fixed asset only with a general financial journal where we select specific GL accounts. For that, we have fixed asset GL journals and fixed asset journals. What this does is that we have, they resemble an actual financial journal where you just select GL accounts, but in this case, we actually select fixed asset. That will be actually the only difference, and you're going to see that in a moment. Plus, after we know the basic menu, well, we need to understand some functionality because we have insurance, very important for any fixed asset, and it's also here, and we have recurring fixed asset journal. So basically, what we have in the menu is the fixed asset list and the type of different journals that you might use normally. That's why they are here in the first position. But anyway, now the idea is that as well, in Business Central, you can design your menus according to what you want. Every time we access to Business Central. In this case, here, I have selected the actual list of fixed assets that I have. You can see that I have my car, some cars. I have a conveyor main asset, and as well a conveyor components for an asset. So this means that I could create machinery with different components. Then a computer, which is normally well considered an asset, and as well a switchboard, which is maybe part of my reception. Well, maybe that's an old type of equipment, but the idea is that you could have office support, a type of a fixed asset. This could I could have here my land, my building, my car, etc. So, well, this is the main basic list. Now, when you want something that appeals to you, interesting to have in your actual role center like I have shown, we can just add any window, and we can use the function add bookmark to your role center. So you can then actually create with this simple bookmark section, we're going to be able then to add or to remove a specific menu from your or option from your actual menu that we have in the fixed asset section. Okay, so with this, you can start designing your screen according how you would like to see this actual section. Okay, so in this case, I have just included, or you can delete from your actual menus any of the options that you see. Maybe you don't even insure your assets. Well, you can now move your actual insurance option by just clicking on it and bookmarking it or removing from the actual role center. That's the way we're actually going to be designing our first menus. But later we also have another ways of designing. This is the main for you as user. The most important thing are your menus, so you can easily access to your information. Let's open now from the actual list that we have opened an example for an asset. The main idea of creating an asset then is more or less or similar to an item card in some sense, but here we're gonna just review now the most important information for an asset. The fixed asset card then contain information. In this case, it requires a number like any serial number we have in Business Central. This is automated for you. It provides a number to identify your actual record. Here is the record is actually a Mercedes 300. It's a model for my specific car that actually is considered from the actual type of a fixed asset, a tangible fixed asset. As well, we could have financial or intangible. For those of you who are not accountants, well, this is very, very important to define the type of asset that we are handling, because with this, we're going to as well understand what type of functionality we're going to have. A tangible fixed asset will be as well depreciated, but with the specific classification, we need to consider that this will be at some point part of our assets as well, but in nature, that asset actually exists physically speaking, and financial and intangible actually are more related maybe to software, to licenses, and as well, financial could be maybe you have a contract or an investment contract that as well, this could be considered an asset of use, okay? Sometimes it is considered like that. With that will be a little bit more advanced, but I need to begin with the basic. So I'm going to continue with the Mercedes 300. Every asset implementation requires categorization like your items. So in this case, I have here my type of fixed assets that I have in my company, like car, computers, equipment, furniture, land, and so on. So this is very important because later we're going to tie all my classification to specific GL accounts. Or take that idea that you need to group, first of all, the FA class code. This is the way we call it in Business Central. It might have different names in other systems, but at the end it's just trying to understand how we're going to be grouping and considering our fixed asset. Then we need to identify by a serial number our specific asset. In this case, I'm using the serial number field to include the plate number for my car in this specific fixed asset card. And then later, well, a search description, and most importantly here, for reports I can have a responsible employee. Very well. After I have done this, I'm going to go directly to the most interesting thing. I'm going to have what we call the depreciation. Here is where I'm going to actually have record of my all the records related to this fixed asset functionality from the actual functionality. The core of the actual fixed asset the module is here in the depreciation book. Let's take a look at what we have here. In order to create and have a depreciation book for an asset, and what it is exactly, is where we are going to be posting the actual value, how it fluctuates through a specific period of a life cycle of an item. So let's take a look at the Mercedes 300 depreciation book for you to understand and review what we have here. The depreciation book could be created. It's an accounting tool where we're going to have the specific records for an asset. In this case, for my car, I have a depreciation book that is called the depreciation book for the company. So for my entire company, I'm going to keep track of all my assets in one depreciation book. Imagine that you have a notebook where you keep track of the value of your actual personal belongings, and you need to keep track of your car, how much you pay for your insurance, what was the cost, how much you pay for specific expenses like maintenance, etc. And you know that with the time your car at the end will decrease the market value. Well, that's exactly the definition of the depreciation book. It's a notebook where we keep track of all the records necessary. But in this case, we are creating this in Business Central because Business Central understands what's the functionality behind this and is going to create everything automated for us. Now, we need to define that the cars, in this case, this specific asset, my Mercedes 300, well, will be depreciated with a specific type of depreciation method, which is straight line, which in other words is going to be depreciated in a specific fixed rate on a monthly basis. Okay, then we could use another type of methods that are customized, like declining balance, the LDV1. We can use our own formulations, but for now we're going to keep it straight, and we're going to keep using this straight line, which is just a fixed rate or fixed amount that will be depreciating. For accounting, in the accounting-wise option to depreciate is that every month we should have we need to decrease the fixed asset value by a specific fixed amount. Okay, so if my car has a specific book value, I need to start decreasing the value of that asset on a periodic basis with the same amount every month. Okay, that's the straight line method. And then how the Business Central calculates how much it needs to depreciate from the book value. It's very easy. You need to understand what will be the book value, the actual value of your asset. In this case, called number of depreciation years. In this case, for my car, it will be 5 years. With that, Business Central will calculate for you that after the 5 years, well, the book value will be 0. And it's going to be calculating for you and creating the actual journals and posting for you the actual journals that will be done the calculations, because you might have hundreds of fixed assets at the end. By the way, not to mention that the fixed asset list could be quite long. Well, that it will be quite cumbersome just to depreciate and dedicate 2 or 3 days just to depreciate your assets, especially if you are doing so in Excel. It takes a lot of time. So that the idea is that Business Central is going to do it for you. And then, well, after 5 years, you just need to indicate, okay, when I'm going to start depreciating my asset, okay? And well, with these 5 years, immediately you're going to be having an ending depreciation date corresponding to the actual 5 years. So we begin in 2020 with this asset in January. Well, we're going to be finishing in 2024 December of depreciating. This car value will be 0 in December 2024. Okay. This is very important to understand because it will be defining what will be the corresponding GL procedures then when we run the actual functionality. Then for you to know, we're going to start creating our fixed asset card after we have just explained the basics. Here you have the depreciation book again, the same specific information we explained before. Now, why don't we just actually purchase a car or purchase a fixed asset, then again as an example, and then start completing the procedures, because we need to purchase and we need to start showing how it depreciates. Now that you understand the actual depreciation book, well, just let me just, before actually creating my asset, give you an explanation of what you need to understand before going in depth with the actual process, because some of you accountants, specifically accountants, might ask me, hey, sometimes I want to see and I want to test the depreciation before the end, because I don't want to just randomize the actual values. So why don't we just create a different depreciation book for me to test, to try to test different depreciation methods? And the answer for that is that you could have a default depreciation book, but you could come and create more a book value, depreciation books for your company, for you to test the actual depreciation process. So we can help you with that, no problem, specifically because that's sometimes necessary for accountants to review the actual value. Okay, for the fixed asset setup, well, we are not going to go too much in the process, but we need to specify something about your depreciation book. Okay, since I can create specific depreciation, this is a company depreciation book card. Okay, sometimes it will be very important to understand what actually a depreciation books actually does. Well, what it does is that it has engines to calculate for us the actual depreciation and the values. That's exactly what it does. But at some point, this is a unique, important, and more important a setup that you need to do in every depreciation book card. And here is, in this integration part, we have different GL integrations for all the processes. Here we need to understand what are the transactions we're gonna be able to run for an asset. Here we have acquisition costs. So you can find here all these transactions, depreciations, write down, appreciation. Well, we could decrease or even increase the value for an asset. Then we could have custom transactions, like maybe we have added special features to, I don't know, a license. Well, that will be intangible. Well, that is not going to be a normal appreciation, depreciation for something. So that's completely custom, because the type of licenses for a software that you purchase at some point increase the value in cost. So your provider is increasing the value for specific users or something. Well, you can actually not randomize that type of, you need to sometimes custom some transactions to increase or decrease the actual value. Then we have the disposal. Disposal refers to when we sell an item and we need to get, sometimes we get losses or we sometimes get profit when we sell an actual asset. Normally, well, since it's depreciating the book value, well, we will have some losses when we try to sell our assets, okay? And maintenance. But the depreciation and as well, remember that you need to, guess what? Your GL. okay, and just create the journals and integrate it to the GL. So at some point, if we check these fields, we're gonna be telling Business Central, okay, I stopped my test procedures to review the actual depreciation that will be created. And if you click on these checkboxes, well, when we run the actual procedures, this will be linking to the actual GL accounts. Now let's create our first fixed asset. I'm going to create a new, and for me, this is a new fixed asset card. What I need to input here, maybe I want a new car. I'm using cars because they are easy to understand as fixed assets, but you can then think of other types and I can answer you if you have questions. So for me, I'm going to create now a new asset for a BMW any Series X. It doesn't exist, but that will be the model of my BMW, okay? And yeah. So I have this new car that I'm actually going to purchase, maybe for the director in the company or the owner have purchased this new car, or well, maybe in your company you're going to give away BMWs for all the managers. That would be great. So now I'm going to need to classify the BMW as the type of assets that we have. That will be then a tangible asset. Then I'm going to need to create the actual and classify account-wise this item related to a specific subclass, okay? The subclass is going to help me then to connect to the specific GL accounts. So behind this, we have a specific setup that is going to actually help me to actually relate to specific GL accounts. At the end, I'm going to show you after some transactions what will be the result in the GL accounts, of course. Now, in the serial number, I'm going to input the actual plate number. So this is customized, and this will be 9999. Very well. The search description then is here as well for reporting purposes, and maybe we have a responsible employee for any asset. Most often use once we purchase and deliver this to an employee in the company. So this will be for John, the managing director. After we have this, if you remember the brief explanation for the depreciation book concept, we are going to be tying our BMW to this to have a specific company depreciation book. But as well, you could create more if you want. Maybe that will be the company, but you have another for testings, procedures not connected to the GL accounts. So you can run the same exercises I'm going to explain. So hopefully the depreciation book concept is understood. You can have many. But for now, I'm going to use the depreciation starting date for this actual month. The first day maybe, when I actually going to start depreciation. Maybe the next month will be better. So I'm going to purchase in September my asset, but I'm going to start depreciating in the following month. Okay, what happened here? Well, you're going to be purchasing your asset, which I'm going to do in a moment, but accounting-wise, you need to specify Business Central when you actually start depreciating. For those of you who are not accountants, we do not often depreciate from the first day we acquire the asset. We normally do on the first day of every month. That's a best practice to be able then to not to depreciate only for 1 week or for maybe 18 days or something like that, but actually month by month. And it's advisable to understand that every first day of our every monthly period, we are going to start depreciating. So now my life cycle will be 5 years, and then at the end of this specific depreciation ending date, that will be 2025, we are going to have this great BMW Series X M model that doesn't exist, but as well, we're going to be calculating the depreciation until it has 0 value on the actual book value. So this is just specific setups that we have. So once we have this, let me just review if the setup was correctly done, because I don't see specific figures here. Yes, depreciation is here. Okay, very well. Now, the thing here is that my asset is not yet completed. Why? Because look at the book value, it's still zero. Okay, I don't have a currently purchased this asset, but as well you could include a fixed asset picture. So maybe you could import or take a picture immediately for your mobile if you open this in your tablet. Okay, very well. So you could just add it there, and you could have as well attachment. Maybe you would like to, why not? You know that when you purchase an asset, you have maybe some instructions, you have manuals, user manuals, or something like that. Well, you could add them here. If you have a electronic version of specific documents related to the asset, well, strongly advise you to actually add there some specific attachments that are valuable for you. Now, before going anywhere else, what I need to do is just actually purchase my item. Now, other specific processes, insurance and maintenance, very important. I'm going to go after my purchase to do some transactions later, because yes, every car needs maintenance and needs an insurance, specifically when you actually purchase for a company. Now, once I have done this, what I'm going to do is just access and purchase my fixed asset. We normally do this through a purchase order because we need to generate an invoice to actually deliver to our financial department so they can actually pay for the company the actual invoice for that asset. In order to do so, we just need an actual purchase order document where I'm going to create a new. By clicking on new, we're going to be opening a purchase order where in order to actually create one of these, I'm going to just include in the purchase order document. What we do normally here, we just need to input a vendor. For those of you who haven't seen the purchase order before, I have a list of vendors from where I need to actually just select one of them for me to actually purchase my item. Now, once I have selected the actual vendor, I'm going to need to start including in my item section. In Business Central, you can actually maximize the input window because sometimes your purchases might include dozens of lines or even hundreds of lines. For us, I just need to actually use the actual functionality to include my fixed asset that I try to purchase. If any purchase order might include different options that we can just input, like creating GL accounts for expenses directly to the GL account you select, item purchases from your actual item catalog, and resource charges, and most importantly for me, I have the possibility to purchase fixed asset. Yes, this is integrated with the module. So just in this example, I'm going to select type fixed asset for my purchase, and from here, I'm going to be able to select from the actual fixed asset list, the actual BMW series that we have just created before. Very well. So from here, let's say that I just need to select the item, in this case, the BMW, and just input the actual quantity and the value. Okay, so for me, there's nothing else important I need to do. So the direct unit cost will be related to the actual expenditure to acquire that asset. But in this case, it's not going to go directly to the actual procedures in the GL account to post transactions like any other resale item or inventory item that you have. We're going to be using fixed asset accounts. Just remain that. Why? Because we have selected the fixed asset type. So in this case, I'm just going to input a random value for my asset. And I just need to select this specific tax functionality that could be automated for you, or if you are, in this case, in the American version, which I'm showing today, just to show different possibilities. In this case, we just need to select a tax group code. For those of you who work with, if you have the taxes calculated by a specific rate not related to this field called tax group or area code, this is because in the United States, the taxes are being calculated by state, county, and specific city. But in the other areas in Latin America, we just calculate our assets based on the type of product and vendor. So we have a correlation with the geographical area from where you are actually, yes, acquiring, but that will be more related to the actual origin, if it was local or foreign type of purchases. For me, that's it, the only explanation I need to have to purchase. I'm not going to go in depth with the tax functionality, but whenever you need to purchase, look at the type, fixed asset, select your asset, and select the actual value. So as you can see, it's quite easy. After you understand the basic process of purchasing, so for me, I'm going to go back to the purchase order, and here I have the total taxes calculated that will be for me 0 in this example, but this might include as well taxes for you. Now, as well, we have other type of information for every purchase, like the currency code, that is super important when we have any type of purchase, because the book value will be depending on this actual process. If you commit a mistake here, we need to then as well need to go into the actual fixed asset module. I'm going to show you how to make adjustments, but anyway, you will need to provide here a correction for the purchase order, and as well need a correction in your fixed asset module. So every time we have a purchase order, strongly recommended, pay a lot of attention. Of course, I don't have to tell you that. So now what I'm going to do is just going to release, or according to your warehousing procedure, or I need just to send this to the actual vendor. So Business Central has the functionality to create an automated email with body and attachments to your vendors just by clicking one single button that is just here. For now, I just need to actually post my purchase order. What I will be doing is just now acquiring my fixed asset, and I'm just going to start receiving in and invoicing. So AP is going to be able to pay, and at some point I'm just going to receive this item as to be part of the main assets of my company. So the order is post, meaning that I have just purchased this item, and I'm just going to be opening the invoice. So from here, we have created a specific fixed asset purchase invoice that as well we just need now to pay, created, but at the same time creating so our acquisition cost for this fixed asset. So let's take a look at our first transaction. For that, I just need to go back to my fixed asset list, and I'm just going to open to find the actual BMW we just created to review how then it affects the booking records. Now we have in every fixed asset card a history, a log entry or ledger entries. And from here we have different type of transactions. Okay, so the first one, and we normally mandatory, we need to create the acquisition cost. So the invoice created for us as our first ledger entry related to a fixed asset, and we are accessing now the fixed asset module, fixed asset card, to review the history, and now we are going to be able to review this specific row. The acquisition cost created from a specific source order or purchase order was actually posted in this month. Now we have anyway the book value created, and this actually helps us to actually add our first record in the fixed asset card, which is 15,000. Very well. After we have just actually done this, what we need to do for very most importantly is to start working on the actual maybe insurance process of your actual new car. Okay, as well, why not to start defining just to show the functionality? It might not be exactly like this, but for me, I would like to include a vendor that will be providing specific maintenance processes for my BMW. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is just start working with the actual maintenance. So let's say that immediately after purchase, this might not be the case, but I as well would like to start programming maintenance records, just to actually help me to do the process for me to remember when do I need to actually create maintenance on a monthly basis or every specific period of time. Okay, the first thing that you can have here is that for any asset, you could create a list of specific the whiteboard important. List of specific maintenance procedures. So I'm going to create the first general maintenance. Maybe that will be even free, or this is no relevant. So I'm going to just start working on the specific calendar. This is just a calendarization of my asset maintenance procedures. Okay, so at the end of every month, or at the beginning, sorry, of every month, am I required to input maintenance records. This will be helping me to actually create information for me to actually go then later and procedure with the actual maintenance. So the idea is that you need, first of all, need to create a list of the specific dates. This has got to be done manually done because we don't know what type of maintenance procedures you will require. But the idea is that you can here in the maintenance registration list, well, add records for the following midterm maintenance procedures. So let's say that for the following 6 months or the entire year, I will be creating maintenance records for me, so they can be then generated on the specific time. So Business Central is going to help me. Your specific asset, in this case, your BMW, requires that you actually take the actual asset to have maintenance. Okay, so that will be the first thing you need to do. Okay, as well, we sometimes purchase insurance. Very well. And here the total value insurance currently is 0. That's not advisable for any asset. Let's jump into the actual fixed asset procedure to create the fixed asset GL journal for, we have a GL journal for insurance. So for me, I have an insurance for 2020 for my cars. Okay, so once I have this type of insurance, let's just go and actually use the insurance journal. So what I want to do after and only after I have actually created and I have purchased a car, otherwise any transaction won't be allowed to be posted in Business Central. Well, the only rule that you need to remember is that you require an acquisition cost that we have done. So for me, I'm going to purchase an insurance for my actual car that, I don't know, has this specific cost. And remember, we have the concept of dimensions. Maybe this expenditure will be going directly to the administration department, most often. But, well, we have other type of ideas like, well, where are you posting an expense? In Asia, in USA, because remember that I'm working on the, as a consultant, I have demos for different countries with different functions. So, well, you might need to include, or for you, if you have different branches, well, use the dimension concept. Now, coming back to the actual procedure, I'm going to actually purchase my insurance with this specific value for my BMW. And I am using the first type of journal that I'm going to show today, which is the insurance journal. Very well, I'm just going to post a transaction. And currently, after my acquisition cost, I have created a calendar for maintenance, and now I'm actually purchased my first expense for an asset, which will be the insurance. Normally, that will be the first expense that you will be having on the best practice. Well, just as a concept that you need to learn. Now, I just need to review these actual procedures that I have. And well, actually, I just would like to review the insurance, total value insurance. I need to review for every asset if you have actually insurance your actual asset in this case. Okay, and here you can see any transaction related to your insurances. So you could as well, like, remember, you can attach information. Well, I could have a second attachment in my fixed asset, so you could have the actual insurance policy. After this, what I need to do is just go into the actual depreciation process. Okay, the first process that I need to run sorry, in order to start depreciating, I need to show you how the engine actually worked for me. Okay. Oh, for some reason, this was not saved. Sorry. I just need to input the information. Very well. There you go. Now it's here. Okay, so we're gonna run just we are obviously in the final part of our webinar. Well, now that you understand the main concept of the actual requisition, purchase, insurance, program your calendar for the actual maintenance. Well, I need to start actually depreciating this asset, and this is how actually we are going to be doing so. All your fixed assets will be depreciated in batch. You're not going to do anything else. You only need to actually indicate when you purchase an item and where your depreciation should start, according to, as I advise you, will be the first of every month. I'm going to just now go and let's say that I'm going to change just in the future so you can see the depreciation. I'm just going to change my company date to, I don't know, October or November, something like that. Very well. After I have just done this, what you only need to do is actually run one single procedure. It's very, very easy. You don't have to do this, and we are going to be automated this for you. I'm going to create the actual first depreciation by running a function that is called calculate depreciation, which is going to be helping me to populate all the journals required for me to actually work with the depreciation automatically created. So the idea is that, yes, you create a journal with the actual fixed asset and the amount to be depreciated for the following months or the previous months that after we have just a specific time. Well, you would need to actually run this function on every month to actually calculate the depreciation. So this will be, and then the calculate depreciation window where we are going to be we need to select the actual depreciation book. Remember that, very important, because your depreciation book could or couldn't be connected to the GL account, as I mentioned you before. Now the posting date in this case will be November, according to my concept after my first month when after the purchase of the item, I need to start depreciating. Now, well, this will be November. You need to update the actual description of this because this will be the description of the actual journal you will be creating. By the way, you could actually as well filter if you only want to depreciate specific assets. Okay, so why not to actually only depreciate my asset that I have just created, which is the actual BMW. But as well, you could start depreciating the actual type of fixed assets, so you can review one by one the actual depreciation results that I will show now. So I have only selected one item just to make it easy to actually review the information. But for now, this is the only thing that you will need to calculate depreciation. As you can see, it's very, very easy. It's just about selecting the specific date and if you need, well, specific asset filters. With this is going to create a journal for me. I'm going to click on OK. So this is telling me that the depreciation has been calculated for me. So this could be now for all your assets as well, but remember that I just filter to show that functionality, and then one fixed asset GL journal line was created. Okay, I'm just going to open yes, and this is going to show me the second type of journal. If you remember, we first used the first example that will be the insurance type of journal. Now we have the second type of journal helping me that the depreciation engines use, which is the fixed asset GL journal. From here, I have the engine created for me 2 lines on the specific posting date for this specific fixed asset. Look at this. This is the actual BMW. Very well. But most importantly, it has calculated a specific amount that will be, of course, negative that will be then crediting the actual asset acquisition account, or according to your preference, well, you can separate an acquisition account and then create a depreciation account in your balance sheet. And as well as an expense, we have created an offset account in the second line that will be related to the actual depreciation posted for the P&L in the actual. This is more for the accountants, of course, but we just need the depreciation account. Okay, for those of you who don't understand this concept, well, we are going to be decreasing the value that is created from my asset. Look at this minus sign. This will be then, if you remember, my value was 1500. Now this will be decreasing that value. But as well, this is considered as an expense. Yes, when the value, once we purchase something, this could be either cost or this could be an expense. The only difference is that the asset has a value, but with the time, at the end, is considered an expense. This is not an investment. Your asset is not considered an investment. It's not considered unless it is land. Well, this will be at the end, guess what? A simple expense, because at the end, let me just show you the actual type of GL accounts. All the accounts that are number 6 or larger, 7, 8, are normally considered expenses. Look at this. I have the red expense, the payroll tax expense, maintenance expense. So all of these are type of expenses accounts, okay? So the depreciation actually is part of this section. With this, what I just need to do, I understand that I'm decreasing the value and depreciating. Well, after this, I will be only posting. But don't forget that we as well need sometimes a concept of the dimensions, okay? This could be automated. So maybe your asset is part of a specific area, or is for accounting-wise part of a specific department, administration, directors, G&A department, or fabric 1, or warehouse 2, or something, you know, many departments that you could create just to have the idea of the dimensions. Don't forget, very, very important accounting-wise. After this, I'm just going to pause this transaction to actually generate this and decrease the value of my actual asset. Let me just go back to the BMW Series EXM fixed asset card. I have just used that journal because I need to actually decrease the value, and in this actual section we can see the actual book value that is not anymore the acquisition cost. It was actually then depreciated, meaning that this was then just decreased. And with the time, this was just November. In the following year, well, this value will be then decreased significantly, and every year we're going to see until the value will be 0. So let's create then and review the ledger entries. My first and most importantly, the mandatory transaction before posting anything is the actual acquisition cost. Then I actually created an expense for the insurance. And then I created as well another expense transaction that we just called depreciation, but that as well was connected to the actual book value. I want to make a difference for those of you who are not accountants. When I purchase insurance or provide maintenance, this might or might not actually affect the actual acquisition cost or the actual book value most of the time. But the depreciation, yes affect the actual book value. That's why when I purchased the insurance, it never affected the value, but the actual depreciation actually decreased the book value from the actual purchase order. So now it is decreased only by the depreciation. But you can select if what type of transactions will be affecting the actual book value. Okay, just for you to understand what is behind what we're doing here. After this, I just need to actually go into the last main type of transaction That will be the actual disposal of an item. Let's say that after a specific period of time, in this case only 2 months for the demo, because I don't have time to actually go into depreciate month by month, I'm just going to create the sales order because I'm going to actually work and I'm going to sell this item. Meaning, what happens when I actually sell an item? Well, like any other item that you sell, you're gonna need to use a purchase order. In this case, what I'm going to create is a create sales order that will be helping me to actually post specific values required to actually post into the P&L the results, because I'm gonna have gains and losses after this sales operation. And here in the sales order, you as well have the fixed asset option. So you have GL account, item, when you sell your items, charge items, and fixed asset. From here, I'm going to select this recently purchased BMW. And as well, I'm just going to include the quantity that will be one. So it will be important now to be considering what inputting the actual sale value in this case, because after a while, well, it depends on a negotiation or something like that. So at the end, most of the time, we are going to be losing money with cars. Remember that this is not an investment. Most of the time, it's just an expenditure, unless, well, if you consider you're purchasing land, you're going to be increasing then the value of the asset, which I'm going to show you in a moment. But normally for cars, this will be the actual procedure. After selling, well, the book value will be as well the market, at least sometimes not profitable most of the time. It depends of your actual sales procedure. But for me, this just will be the exercise about the sales order and the disposal of an item. How do we do that? Well, we just create a sales order when we just input in one of the lines. Well, similarly to a purchase order, in this case, have just included a client instead of a vendor, which is a data corporation. And we have as well a line section, but in this case, I have selected the fixed asset value to then be able to select the BMW and insert the unit price. Related to the actual negotiation with one of the persons that I created as a customer to be able to sell this car. With this, well, other values will be calculated, like the taxes or specific costs, but most importantly, this will be then actually considered the book value and will be taking the actual value to zero. After you sell it, then the actual book value will be then calculated against this unit price of 14,000, because we are going to now post into a gain or losses account. As well, we're going to insert a transaction in our GL account, a fixed asset module. I'm going to show you this at the end because you need to understand what you have done. We have input acquisition cost, service, insurance, we have depreciated, but if we sell it, the book value will be zero. Okay, so meaning that you have just sold the item. I'm just going to pause this transaction and click on ship and invoice. Okay, I'm not going to show more functionality behind the sales procedure. Oh, I just forgot one specific field related to taxes in this North American version, which is the tax group. According to this, in Atlanta, the taxes related to cars or engineering have one specific rate, okay, for my sales operations. So here I have calculated the taxes. So this is 420. So guess what? Now we are calculating the value for the negotiation, but as well, we need to deduct the tax as well in a further procedure, but this is being calculated now. For me now, I'm going to be able now to post this and create an invoice to then actually sell or dispose this item. So this has created an order for me, and this has created a posted sales invoice. I'm just going to show you that. Very well, and from here you could actually print and send or attach an email, attach a PDF with your email, or just print the invoice or send it to somebody, maybe internally, to have control of the actual operation of the car when it was actually sold. With this evidence, it's very advisable to actually, even after the sales operation, attach a document, and I'm going to show you now what will be happening with your actual asset. I'm going to go back then to my fixed asset list to review the final result of my BMW. Just to finalize our webinar today, I'm going to have this actual value taken to 0. In this moment, well, I still have this record because I will still need to see sometimes at the end of the year information about all the items that consider fixed assets, but as well, the values, the attachment, maybe the final invoice, you need to attach it here to have evidence that this maybe the final invoice was signed by the final customer, just to verify that legally speaking, well, this is not anymore asset of yours, and you have the signature of the person, of your customer, by the way. So for me, I just would need to review the actual ledger entries. And just to review what happened here. First of all, I have the actual acquisition cost, that was 15,000, a depreciation cost. But later, what happened here is that I actually posted a disposal. Look at this. After only 1 month, I just sold my car. This is not good, but anyway, I had to sell it on the market value. So from this actual operation, Business Central helped me to calculate that I actually have the specific loss. Okay, and this 742 actually is posted to my gain and loss account in my P&L. And at the end, the acquisition cost and the depreciation, in order to actually, when you saw the actual book value in this car is actually 0. Okay, so this 15,000 at the end will be the acquisition cost will be reversed because of the disposal, reversed by this minus 15,000. And the same happens with the depreciation, which initially is negative. Now it will be positive to take in this actually down 0, meaning that I don't have this actual asset anymore. Okay, but at the end, in the gain loss account, you will be actually reviewing the final actually a value that you will be either losing or gaining according to this final operation. Similarly to what you do with every item, you calculate profit, but well, in this case, due to the nature of the transaction and due to the nature of the value or the asset we are selling, well, this is a normal procedure, and we just post it into the gain or loss account. To finalize the webinar, I just need to show you what happened with the actual chart of account. Oh, not to mention that we have other type of procedures. The thing is that I don't have as to show the entire functionality, but we as well have maintenance records. We as well having write-downs or write-off. We can increase the value when it's necessary. That will be more related to land, right? But don't worry. Now, the idea here is that I'm going to, and I can provide you some specific materials. But before going there, what I just want to do is just to show you the specific chart of accounts that you will need in order to implement, when needed, the actual fixed asset procedures or module. Now, I have created a new fixed asset section that, just as a best practice, doesn't necessarily have need this structure. I just have categorized in my fixed asset section for my chart of accounts the actual segments for type of assets. This is not necessarily needs to be done like this. Just for the webinar purposes, I'm creating a specific, let's go and review the fixed asset section and the vehicles subset, just to review the actual results. Look at this. I have a vehicles account, then I have an increase during the year account, decrease during the year, and the accumulated depreciation accounts. What happened here is that, well, for those of you who are not accountants, this is very important to understand. Business Central is going to need an account to post when you actually add an asset. Well, you would need to an actual account to post the information in the balance sheet to actually consider this as an asset. Then increases or decreases during the year we are going to be using this account either when we purchase or, yes, like the name says, we decrease or increase the book value of my asset. So if you guess where the depreciation and where the acquisition cost is, well, you now have some idea. I'm going to show you the transactions. And at the end, the accumulated depreciation. So I can, at the end, have an idea of what will be the actual vehicles total for the company. This is important when at the end, well, categorizing your GL account. In this case, this is just a best practice that I just wanted to show you. It's not necessary. Well, but so you can at the end, well, review maybe some reports. So let's review what happened here. I have the vehicles total. Let's start then from the accumulated depreciation. In the accumulated depreciation account, we're going to be seeing all the depreciated processes that we have run for all my vehicles, right? Related transactions were posted here only to the accumulated depreciation. Now, here as well, you could have a specific transactions related to and with the document number when they apply to specific invoices for disposals. So the depreciation doesn't have to be calculated anymore. So here the idea is that all these transactions are related only to vehicles. For that, we as well can see a negative type of transactions unless we sell it, like in this case. We sold an item that for the BMW, and here we have a positive transaction that will be taking this from my actual depreciation. Otherwise, you will be seeing transactions like this. Let's take a look. I have in my accumulated depreciation account different amounts that are all negative. Okay, let's review now one of the assets to review why we have this type of amounts. So just to finalize, I'm going to just go into the fixed assets that actually generated that. Because I have just first showed the actual transactions that are oftenly used, but for me, actually what I want to just try to understand is what will be normally the actual procedure. Well, for an asset that was purchased in January, that is the Mercedes-Benz 300. I purchased this by this actual value considered as acquisition cost. If you remember, it's mandatory to have acquisition cost to later post more transactions. Then, on a monthly basis, a depreciation value was being posted, calculated for every month, January to June. And then at the end, well, we have a salvage value. The salvage value is considered something that after you sell an item, well, you will be actually posting your salvage value for the actual asset. It's another type of transaction that we have, right? So remember, we do not only have what we have shown. This is just the actual regular procedures, but we have write-offs, write-downs. We as well have adjustments to your fixed asset reclassification type of journals. So that means that maybe, okay, I have created an asset with error because the plate number is wrong, was mistaken by another type of vehicle, right? So you can make reclassifications, okay? So for that, we have other journals like I have shown you before. Well, just to mention it, we have fixed asset GL journals from where we can post any type of transaction, and this is used by the actual depreciation engine. Now we have the fixed asset reclassification journal just to actually change some information. Maybe your asset is okay and you are calculating transactions and so on, but maybe the plate number or the account category is wrong. So you need to actually reclassify, and actually by your reclassification that might affect the accounting procedures, well, you might need to better use the fixed asset reclassification journal. Accountants know that, well, you could reclassify financial information into different GL accounts, but don't go and use that specific financial a reclassification journal that you know, you need to use the fixed asset reclassification journal. For that, we would need to use, instead of GL accounts, fixed assets. Then we have insurance and recurring fixed asset journals. Not to be shown, I don't have any more time to show all of this functionality, but just review, understand how you could actually work with your assets if you have not implemented them. Ask me any question that you need. And remember, everything we have just seen today is into this actual PowerPoint that if you need it, I can actually put it in our Optimus.guru portal. For us, it's very important for that you can actually learn and continue learning everything related to the functionality in system. And now, well, we can deliver manuals, PowerPoints with the ideas presented, so you can study and take the ideas and learn fast. So in 1 hour, you have learned the basics of fixed asset, but the most important information, and you can take now this so you can continue, but with the written information we can provide to you. And well, in this case, look at this as an example. Here, in order to depreciate an asset, well, here I have some procedures that I have just shown in this video, but now as well, why not to cancel the depreciation? If I actually posted a depreciation that was completely wrong, maybe for many months, well, can I actually correct it? The answer is yes, you can cancel your depreciation. Don't worry, everything can be done in the system. But for now, it's enough. I have just covered some of the basics. And if you have any other doubt, please just let me know. If you have further requisitions for me, just this will be then important for us just to review what will be your interests. Your main requisition for us are important. Or if you want as well different topics, like I always receive different ideas. I want this, now they are going, I have received a request to have, of course, going back to basics. I have received many requisitions to show not only the new features that are in the cloud, but actually to go and review how to generate a general journal, because I have new employees who need to learn, who need to continue learning. So maybe if necessary, I can do 2 webinars on a weekly basis, like I did last week. Okay, so thank you very much. If you have any doubt, well, any question, please just let me know so I can just continue answering any important information. Okay, so this will be the end for now of the actual webinar. Thank you very much for your time, and I don't see any other request for now. I believe that this was quite clear. So if you need something else, just please let me know. Thank you very much. My name is Noah Wellman, and hopefully this was a good webinar for you. See you next time. Like every Thursday, we have different webinars with different topics for you. So thank you very much and have a great week.